Hello everyone! And now you're going to hear a short review of Boxing Helena. Dr. Nick is a great surgeon who deserves to be recognized by his peers. He has it all. He's well built, he has a lovely big house that he inherited from his mother, and a beautiful girlfriend, Anne, who works with Nick in surgery. But all of this pales in the guy's eyes, because he has one unattainable goal, the beautiful Helena, with whom Nick once spent the night after a party. After work, Nick goes to a bar to have a drink with his friend Lawrence, but when he sees Helena there, he quickly says goodbye and goes home. At the same time, Anne returns from work with several packages for the upcoming dinner. The first romantic dinner in Nick's new home. The woman was happy to tell him about her plans, and while she stayed to set the table, Nick decided to go for an evening jog. His legs immediately took him to the house of the bright beauty. Climbing a tree under the window, Nick began to watch Helena pour a drink into her glass and walk around the room in a bathrobe. But then another character appeared in the frame, Ray. Nick quickly descends from the tree, and as he runs, images of what is happening in Helena's bedroom scroll through his mind in the smallest detail. The man runs to a payphone and calls Lawrence to tell him about his experiences. The latter is seriously concerned about his friend's morale. After a night with a beautiful woman, he constantly talks about her as if she were his property. Nick pretends to come to his senses so that his friend doesn't suspect anything wrong, but he is already hatching a plan to win the girl. Nick goes to a flower shop and signs a postcard for Helena, inviting her to a housewarming party, which he has decided to organize right now. After that, he sends her a bouquet of flowers and goes home, where Anne is still waiting for him for dinner. Only on the way home does the doctor slow down again by Helena's windows and accidentally falls asleep in the car. When Nick wakes up at night, he rushes to his girlfriend, but she falls asleep in the living room before he gets there. Nick is not too upset about what happened, so he picks up the phone and starts calling Helena. She doesn't answer for a long time because she's still in bed with Ray. But since the calls do not stop, she decides to interrupt and answer. She hears silence on the phone, and a second later, dial tones. Nick is celebrating a housewarming party in his house. He discusses his expectations with his girlfriend. Since the guy organized the party, he prepares to propose to her. But very soon it turns out that the party was not prepared for her. When Helena arrives, the doctor does not take his eyes off her, not even embarrassed by the presence of the bride. Helena acts cold and distant, and quickly turns her attention to the young guest, making Nick nervous. And then she throws off her dress and starts splashing around in the fountain in her underwear. Everyone present cannot take their eyes off the extravagant beauty. Anne also pays attention to her. She realizes that her husband has something to do with Helena and asks him a question directly, but the doctor doesn't even try to correct the situation and even calls her by the name of his mistress. The next day, Helena calls Nick and demands that he take her purse to the airport, which she forgot at the party because she went with a young man. The doctor jumps at the opportunity, and not only is he late for the airport, but he also takes a notebook out of his purse to lure the beautiful woman to him. Helena, furious with her husband, hurls all sorts of insults at him, but goes to his house to pick up her thing. Seeing the notebook on the plate, the girl hurries to catch a plane and leave her inadequate friend as soon as possible. But as soon as she gets on the road, an SUV comes around a bend at breakneck speed and the screeching of brakes is heard. Everyone in the clinic discusses Dr. Nick's disappearance and assumes that he has found another job. One of his colleagues goes to his home to arrange for a letter of recommendation. Nick greets the friend cordially, but does not promise him a letter of recommendation until he accidentally witnesses a horrific scene. Helena is sitting on the bed in the back bedroom, or rather, her upper body. Nick begs his friend not to tell anyone about what he saw, and in return, he will give him his position. Helena doesn't remember what happened to her, and Nick avoids talking about Bavaria and tries to surround his beloved with care. He builds a wheelchair-based throne for the girl so that she can move around the house, but Helena is not yet ready to accept her helplessness. Lawrence arrives at Nick's house. The friend rings the doorbell, knocks, and looks through the windows. But the doctor hides and does not make a sound, realizing that the man will report to the police if he sees the girl lying there. Helena begins to move around the house on her throne and gradually regains consciousness. She tries to convey to Nick that nothing has changed in their relationship, despite the fact that he has taken possession of his beloved in this way. She still thinks he's not a complete man and regrets ever meeting him. Ray tries to find Helena. He leaves his phone number at the grocery store and asks the clerk to let him know if she shows up. Anne can't stand being separated from her boyfriend and comes to his house. Nick desperately tries to hide the stroller with Helena so that she can't scream. Eventually, Anne is about to open the door with her key and go inside. At the last moment, the doctor manages to hide his prisoner. Anne hugs her husband, kneels down in front of him, and tries to make peace from the doorway, taking off her and Nick's extra clothes. But as soon as she's in her underwear, Nick gets excited and can't contain his arousal before he even gets down to work. Lena sees all this through the small doorway, and a smile freezes on her face. Nick escorts Anne out of the house without explaining anything to her, and on the doorstep, he notices that, in addition to his obsessive friend, Ray is also following him. In order to avoid suspicion, Nick calls a flower shop and orders an expensive bouquet of flowers with a note addressed to Helena. Left alone with the prisoner, Nick listens to her mockery of his male inferiority. Instead, in the morning, the doctor prepares another surprise for Helena, which he believes will make the girl even more beautiful. Returning from a run, the doctor approaches an improvised altar covered with white flowers. In the center of it, all is a box covered with silk and lined with a soft pillow, on which Helena is sitting. Now the girl has not only no lower limbs, but also no upper ones. Nick takes care of the girl who used to be a beautiful and handsome girl. He spoon-feeds Helena, combs her hair, and does her makeup. When she asks him to let her go, Nick replies that no one will take care of her like he does. To prove that he is a real man, Nick invites a night girl to his place and makes sure that Helena can watch them through the doorway. After the employee leaves, the guy brings his beloved to the table and starts kissing her. To cheer her up, the doctor orders drinks and ripe pomegranates from the grocery store. The shopkeeper remembers that Helena always ordered this set and calls Ray to report his suspicions. Ray arrives at the surgeon's house and sees through the window how he kisses Helena, covering her with his body. A man with a jealous monologue enters through the back door and is horrified to learn what has happened to his girlfriend. A fight breaks out, during which Ray hits a stone statue and it falls on Nick. The doctor regains consciousness in the hospital. Doctors are around him, and even Anne comes to visit him. He is told that Helena is in another room, and he immediately runs there to see her. The girl, who was completely unharmed after the accident, is sleeping in a hospital bed. Taking her hand, Nick realizes that he had dreamed it all. This is the end of the movie. That's all for today. Subscribe and like if you want more videos like this.